Let's just start by telling me your name and who you played tonight.
My name's Ben Omani. I play Grumio and the Pedant in Taming of the Shrew.
So, as I was watching this play tonight, I kept thinking this is so much about theater. You have not only the play within the play, but actors playing parts on top of parts, men playing women, etc. It's true of both plays. And I just wonder, looking for some thoughts about sort of theater within theater, or what these plays teach you about your art, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's a very common device plays within a play. I think so. It's not a new thing. It's not a new thing within Shakespeare. What I think is very interesting about the connection between theatre and this play and theatre is the fact that this play is so fundamentally based in commedia dell'arte. And if you want to understand how this play works, you have to understand the archetypes of commedia dell'arte. You can't begin to understand the characters, the dynamics. And commedia dell'arte obviously comes into pantomime comes into cartoons. So we have a direct lineage back to where these characters come from. And it's referenced a couple of times in the play to beguile the old pantaloon. We get the Arlecchino figures, we get the El Capitanos. And I was saying to some students recently that in order to understand this play, you need to understand those archetypes. You need to find out what the contemporary version of that archetype is. And every single choice that you make as an actor needs to be connected. If it ever rubs too closely up against the archetype, then you'll start to feel the scene stops working, and it doesn't work at that tempo. So it's a play, I suppose, a play for theatre that has this theatrical energy, and it just doesn't work if it becomes an internal psychological piece. It's not that. People don't have enough time in this play to think intellectually. They have the time to respond to, and so there can't be too much thinking time. I suppose, I'm trying to think, coming back to your question about how it relates to theatre, it's a fundamentally theatrical piece, and physically it needs to be theatrical, and that's what works so well, I think, for Propeller's approach to it, because Propeller being an all-male Shakespeare company, we immediately ask the audience to make a psychological leap to accept that what we're presenting on stage isn't reality. We have men putting on a dress and taking on the guise of women. So there is something innately theatrical from the beginning of you entering the auditorium. From that, it then offers us an opportunity to take that further and to become a travelling group of players in the traditional sense and put on a play.
And the other thing is you're doing repertoire, and
Yes.
I'm wondering, just sort of technically, what do you go through? Do you ever find yourself on stage saying, wait a minute, which play am I in? Or is there any kind of
I think
process?
because they're so distinctly different from each other. Taming of the Shrew has what I describe as a festive energy. It's anarchic. It's bold, it's brash, it's primary colours. Twelfth Night is such a subtle piece. We've got a writer much later on in his career, a much more skillful craftsman by that point in his career. It's a play that relies on subtlety. It's a very fragile piece. It's fundamentally about love, and about all the different forms of love, and when love is denied, and when love is impossible, and when love is lost. And so it is a delicate piece. And so the energies and the tempi of both pieces could not be more different. So in many ways, you click into a different mindset when you begin to go into something which is much more legato, much more delicate. And then you come on to Taming of the Shrew, and you've got your jazz band, you've got your big band, you've got your rock. And so because they're so different, and they counterbalance each other so well, there's such a lovely antidote to one another.
Absolutely.
And so that's what's great as an actor, you don't get bored.
And we were so grateful at the end. The antidote is effect, I think, is so important with these two plays and this really difficult, brutal play. And what a relief it was at the end to hear this is just a play.
Yeah. But I think the issues
a gift.
that are connected to it need to live on in the mind. They can't be just neat. We had a woman, I remember when we first did it, goes, the play made me so angry. And I was like, great. Why should theatre be a dead art? Why should Shakespeare in particular? I think sometimes people come to Shakespeare and they think they're safe, that it's going to be something historical, it's not going to involve me, but actually it should make you angry. It should make you realise that we still live in an incredibly sexist society, in a misogynistic society, where a woman can still be valued purely for her beauty. And we inherit this right down from the Greeks, the Romans, the Helen of Troy. The only thing we know about her was she was the most beautiful woman in the whole of the world, in the whole of Greece, in the whole of the world, I can't remember. There's nothing, we could never say that about a man. We could never say, oh, he's just the most handsome man. He has to have valour or wit or intelligence. And I think that's something that we inherit and something that we get in fairy tales and stories as children. And so it does still exist within our society, and we can't escape it. And it shouldn't therefore be neat, and we shouldn't be able to leave the theatre comfortable in the knowledge that this doesn't happen anymore, because it does, I think. And that's why I think it's a very topical and important play to be doing at the moment.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So important.